Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to today's lesson. Today I wanted to bring this lesson to you for something very important, and that has to do with when you're learning how to crochet. It is important that you learn how to keep your edges straight. As you can see here, these edges here bulk out a little bit, and that is something that is normal, okay, when you are crocheting. But there are things, like I said, as you go along, you're going to see that these edges here are going to have a natural bump to it because these edges here are where you have your chain threes. Okay, so you have a chain three here, you have a chain three here, and especially if you are grabbing your last stitch and you're using the bump and the side leg to go into it, it's going to give it a little bit of a twist. But the more you crochet, you're going to see that it doesn't matter if it has a bump or a little twist, your edge is going to be straight. The same here. When you see the fabric, you're going to notice that it has a gap here in between, and it has a gap in between because when we start our crochet, right, we do not go and crochet here into this stitch right here, because remember, I'm teaching you guys my way here, that as for crochet 101, the basics of crochet, the chain three is actually going to be a stitch, and I'm going to keep it that way. Now, a lot of crocheters, they will go ahead and they'll use this as the height chain, and then in order to hide, all right, this gap, what they will do is that they'll go ahead and they'll start their stitches right here where the stitch is actually begins. But you know what, for me, these gaps really don't bother me at all. And another thing that I've noticed is that the more that I crochet, the gaps kind of actually even out. So to me, I kind of like the gap, but to each his own, right? So, and like I say, the more you keep crocheting your rows on top of each other, the straighter that you're going to see is that your edges are going to straighten out. Now, when you're starting, it's very hard to identify that last stitch. Here, it's easy to identify because you can see that the last stitch is the chain three. But when you're doing a single crochet or you're doing the half double crochet, those stitches are much shorter, so it's very easy for you to miss that last stitch, especially when it comes to the single crochet. So when it comes to your single crochet or your half double, the best thing, or even your double, the best thing for you to do is when you're starting your chain you're going to do your chain one. After you do your chain one, you're going to go ahead and put your stitch marker right there at that chain. Okay, here I'm not using a stitch marker. I am just using a simple piece of yarn that is a contrasting color. Why? Because when you're starting to learn how to crochet, you may not have stitch markers because you may not have gone to the store to buy your kit, or you may not have gone and ordered anything, or you're not even thinking about stitch markers. Actually, you're more focused on buying yarn and buying your hook. So you can just use a piece of contrasting colored yarn, put a knot on there, and then you're ready to rock and roll. So what you'll do is that you can go ahead, after you have your knot tied on, you don't want it tied on too tight because you won't be able to take it off. So you're going to go ahead and then just crochet your row as usual. All right, here we're doing a crochet of single crochet stitches and we are crocheting into our stitches as usual until you get until the end of the row. And this is what I want you always to remember, that whether you're making a single crochet, a half double crochet, or a double or a treble, you're always going to place your stitch marker to keep your edges straight at the beginning of each row. Okay? That is the key. You're not going to place a stitch marker at the beginning or at the end, because that defeats the purpose. Because at the end, it really doesn't matter. But you're definitely going to place your stitch marker at every beginning row. So I'm going to pick up my 2 loops here of my double crochet, and my double crochet, of my single crochet, and my chain is giving me a little bit of a problem. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to do like I explained, right? Because the chain is a little tight right there. So I'm going to do like I explained in the other lesson, where I'm going to pick up the bump and the side leg, and I'm going to continue with my single crochet. So I have completed my row. I'm going to turn my work, okay? And I'm going to go ahead, after I finish turning my work, I'm going to chain 1, because we're doing single crochets. I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to go ahead and place my stitch marker at the beginning of my work after I turn it. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish crocheting as usual. So either if you use the same stitch as your chain 1, that's perfectly fine, because you have your chain 1 already marked. Okay, so you can use the chain 1 space if you prefer, or like me, hey, this is my first single crochet, so I'm going to go ahead and keep on doing my single crochets all the way down until I get to the end of the row. And doing my single crochets all the way until I get to the end with my yarn still hanging on, marking my stitches for me, because I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to simply keep on crocheting my single crochet stitch until I get until the end of the row, which I am coming to the end of the row right now. So I'm going to just move that out of the way. I've got another one here, and then I've got another one here. Okay, and then I have another one right here, right next to it. I'm going to go ahead and insert, all right, and do my last one here. And then here I know that, hey, I have to pick up this single crochet, this where I put my stitch marker at, right, this chain 1, since I have to pick that up, because remember, that's my last stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my stitch right here, pick up my first leg. Actually, I'm going to do like I did last time. All right, I'm going to go into the back bump, the bump and the side, and I'm going to do my single crochet. And now that I have my single crochet made into my last stitch, I can go ahead and remove my stitch marker, because it doesn't serve me anymore, because I've already gotten that stitch. I'm going to turn around, okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. If I'm doing a double crochet, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to tie my stitch marker right where my chains are at. and I'm going to continue to do the double crochets as normal. If I'm doing a half double crochet where I chain 2, I'm going to also continue. I'm going to mark my chain 2 with my stitch marker and continue along my row as normal. I know that I have my last stitch right here, so I'll pick up my last stitch and finish it off. Okay, so that is how you use your stitch markers to be able to make your edges nice and straight. And hey, I'll see you in the next video.